Welcome to Ideas Outwork and Beyond. Today is February 22nd, Thursday.
222.
222. Wow, February is already gone. Can you believe that?
That's why they only put 28 days in February, because they don't have enough time for 30.
Well, we want to welcome everyone for watching the show. And we have the same crew here. We have Matt Grimes and Paul Trippi. And thank you again for coming.
Oh, half the crew.
Half the crew, right. So Len is with Elena, right? Because Elena...
I believe she is. I'm not sure about that, so don't claim there's an endorsement.
Well, I think all the Democrats are supposed to be with her tonight. I don't know. I guess celebrating.
Where's Marty Heiser tonight?
Marty Heiser is actually away.
Oh, that's
yes,
fair.
He's away. So he should be back next week.
I heard he lost his voice after the show last.
Come on, don't take no cheap shot out of him now. Okay, well, we're supposed to have a great show because we want to discuss Elena's bid for the mayor, and I don't know who she is, and I would like for us in the community to call us to tell us exactly who she is, and let's just have a debate and I guess a dialogue about her and the issues that she will be confronting once she starts running for mayor. And I hope also she's not going to be the only one. Hopefully we will have a primary.
Well, that's an interesting concept you mentioned. I mean, the thing about Elena is you have a candidate, you've got not I would say, an even playing field among Republicans and Democrats in office in Danbury, but let's look at the candidates who are not running. I mean, you've got two state representatives from Danbury who are Democrats, neither of them is running. You've got 7 councilmen, none of them are running for mayor. So nobody in office. The town clerk is also a Democrat. She's not running for mayor. But you've got somebody who's been out of the political process for the better part of 4 years, trying to come back in. So you've got no sitting Democrats running for mayor. What does that tell you?
I don't know. Well, I hope people will call in 792-4101, but that doesn't really mean anything, though.
It does, because you don't see, I mean, in a year where you have a vulnerable incumbent or a lot of hot issues, you'll see somebody want to give up a council seat or take time out of the state rep seat to run for mayor and challenge. This, to me, says we got 7 Democratic councilmen who want to stay as councilmen right now, who don't want to give up that security they have in the council.
Security? You don't get paid for that. You go to funerals and parties, and that's it. The mayor is a very honorable position.
It is, but why would you want to give up, if you want to be an influential part of city government, why would you want to give up a safe seat in the city council to lose the mayor's race?
You know what? You don't know that. You don't know that because the way the Democrats actually took over the last election, I think that whoever is running this year has a tremendous opportunity to actually do well. If the Democrats actually rally behind...
But you say the Democrats took over 2 years ago. That's not true. They did make gains.
In the past year.
No, last year,
nationally,
totally different animal.
apples and oranges there.
Not really.
It
Absolutely.
Because it can trickle down to local politics.
Jason Bartlett won a convincing race or a convincing victory for state representative. Does that mean Bob Burke is automatically going to lose? No, not at all. You know, you look at Ridgefield, they have a Democrat first selectman, extraordinarily popular.
And an opposed Republican state rep.
Wins 2-1 consistently. But Republicans, still rule the roost in Ridgefield on a statewide and federal level. So you are comparing apples and oranges there. Matt brings up an interesting point. Thus far, and I don't mean to impugn the reputation of Ms. Abrantes, but you do not see what I would call a top-tier candidate emerging to run against Mark Boughton. That does say something about Mark's perceived strength anyway, that no candidate or no sitting elected official wants to risk the seat that they currently have. I don't live in Danbury. Matt lives in Brookfield. He's a supporter of Mayor Boughton. I'm not exactly. Matt's a Republican. I'm an unaffiliated voter. So, neither of us really have the specific knowledge of Danbury, even though Matt knows it pretty well. Mayor Boughton appears right now to be a very strong sitting mayor with the announced and rumored candidates that may oppose him. So, for a candidate who has been out of office for the better part of, it has been 4 years?
Four.
4 years.
Four. That's
And who, for a woman who, as a sitting incumbent city clerk, lost to what I would say is a fairly unremarkable incumbent or challenger at the time, I think might say something about her own electability in the city of Danbury. So as it stands today, she is by far, she must be considered the underdog against Mayor Boughton.
I don't know. You said, you know, I might be comparing apple to oranges, but when you look at Nancy Johnson, and
Yeah,
no,
she got killed in Danbury.
right, because, well, everywhere, because who taught that, what's his name?
But, you know, Nancy Johnson
was
got
going to
killed in
beat Nancy
Danbury, and
Johnson.
David Capiello, granted, who was unopposed, you know, got an extraordinarily large amount of
But
votes.
so did Jody Rell.
And so did Jody Rell. You know, people...
And Joe Lieberman.
And Joe
Well,
Lieberman.
what I'm trying to say, that, you know, don't,
But I mean, what I think Paul's absolutely right, Ivan. You cannot presume that what happened with the Democratic takeover of Congress has anything to do with municipal elections, because it doesn't. We've never seen where that spills into municipal elections. In the whole greater Danbury area, it's never happened once in all the years I've been following politics. I've never seen what happens on the national level trickle down to the local level in terms of elective office politics. It just has not happened. And the most counterexample I can give you to that is actually my town, Brookfield, which is, Paul has always called it a one-party town, a Republican. Well, the last time we had a Democratic first selectman, he won landslides. And you know when he won them? In 1983 and 1985, on both sides of the Reagan landslide. So that is the test case to prove that national elections have nothing to do with local politics.
You know, if you wanted to go back and look at some kind of a trend line, you could look at 2 years ago now when the Democrats in Danbury, when Dean Esposito was the candidate for mayor, he was killed. I mean, you know, nearly 60-40.
that guy was a joke.
I don't know the man. You know, I'm not going to say horrible things about him right now anyway. But, you know, he lost, and he lost horribly to Mark Boughton. But overall, the Democrats did make gains that year. They picked up seats on the council. They won. Lori Kabak was elected by a very large margin to the office of city or town clerk. So they made gains. Is that...
3 council seats.
But you know, but I think that was their strategy, though, not to go after the mayor, but to go to add more to the council.
It may well have been, and that strategy did work if that was, you know, truly their intent. They did make gains. Is that something they can replicate and build upon this year? I don't know that they can. Can they even hold what they have? I don't know either way. But the reality is right now for the Democrats in Danbury, if Ms. Abrantes is to be the candidate for mayor, their nominee, she is at the outset the underdog, probably poorly financed. I don't know that she's all that well known in Danbury, and someone who the last time they ran for office was rejected by the voters. So
A sitting office holder.
a sitting office holder, an incumbent, rejected by the voters by a large margin. So, you know, she's certainly the underdog, and you know, does that jeopardize what the Democrats currently have in Danbury? It may. Can she do as well, if not better, than Dean Esposito, and can they build upon what they have, the gains they made 2 years ago? Maybe they can. It's very early in the process to judge that. I do know I did watch for a few moments on Al Robinson's blog a brief video of her speaking before the Democrat Town Committee, and Joe Da Silva Jr., who's their party chairman, said something in the background about their nominee needing to raise between $100,000 and $150,000. If that is indeed the case, it is a good thing for Ms. Abrantes that she is starting this early, because $100,000 in, you know, what is it, 200 and some odd days is an enormous undertaking.
Especially with the change of the campaign finance laws, too.
$100,000 in a city of 80,000 people or so is a very, very tall task. You know, I don't know what the people, the folks in Brookfield raised, in Bethel. You know, you need $20,000 or so to run a credible, if not strong, campaign.
About the same, Brookfield, a little less, maybe.
But think about it, Ivan. $100,000 to $150,000 to run for mayor in dinky old little Danbury. You know, this is not a major media market. You're not buying television commercials on WNBC. You're buying print media, print ads possibly in the News Times, and you're sending out mailings. Maybe a few commercials here on Comcast and WLAD. But $100,000 to $150,000 is an enormous amount of money, and frankly, I don't see how she can raise that.
I mean, the Democratic Party in Danbury has not, I mean, has had its successes over time. I mean, for 10 years, it was the dominant party in city politics. They had a sitting mayor who ran unopposed every other time, and when he was opposed, usually it was by an independent, not by a Republican. But then there was a very interesting editorial that the News Times every now and then will run online some editorials of the past and everything. This one was right after Mayor Boughton was elected the first time. It says, Eric Wesley's coattails no longer a factor in city politics. And it was the case. For 10 years, they relied on one gentleman's popularity, and rightly so he had popularity. He had the pulse of this city. He ran the city as a very good steward for 10 years, 12 years actually. But for 10 years, he dominated city politics. And then when it was finally time for him to move on, the Democrats got bitterly divided in the primary, which ended up about 52-48, I think. And I think that they have never fully recovered from that primary when you look back on it. Because a primary, and I discussed this with Paul earlier today, primary could do one of two things for you. If you finish within 10 points of each other, if you've got a two-man primary and you finish within 10 points of each other, usually it does divide the party, and there's some very bitter feelings because you probably had to fight for every last vote to win. But if you can win a primary with 55% of the vote or more, or 60% of the vote, people start to look at you. Wow, nobody took that guy or that lady seriously a few months ago. Look at how big they just won that primary, and then the money starts rolling in. I mean, it happens all the case. It happened in Paul's hometown in Bethel 2 years ago. It was a sitting Democratic first selectman. The current first selectman, Mr. Burke, won a Republican primary with 60% of the vote. This is a guy who was only in the Republican Party for the better part of a year before that. He won 60-40, and people took notice of that immediately. I mean, you were there. You lived through it.
I was there. And he destroyed Judy in that primary and went on to beat Alice by a pretty large margin, in part because of the momentum he gained from his victory in the primary. You know, the weird thing is, you bring up some influential personalities, and certainly Gene Enriquez was one for, sure, a dozen years, and he was a fine mayor, and still is today.
Do you think he should run again? Because people
I
are
don't
saying
know.
that they want him to come back.
Well, good for them. I mean, I haven't heard that he wants to. There were rumors last year that he was considering running for the seat now held by Jason Bartlett. He ultimately didn't, and that tells me he probably doesn't want to get back involved in elected politics, at least right now. But he was a good mayor, and he was the dominant force in politics, not only in Danbury proper, but very much so in the region. Back when Cliff Hergen was the first selectman of Bethel and Bonnie Smith was in Brookfield, they worked with Gene Enriquez on a regional basis, and back then water and the sewer plant were concerns, and it was very much a regional environment. And
Danbury landfill, yeah.
And that is maybe also today the case, but Gene was really a dominant force in the area, and that was a time when the Republicans, and the Republicans in Danbury are not the majority party, but they are not to be sneezed at. They have a sizable percentage of the electorate is registered as Republicans. And back when Gene was running for office, and he ran against some good people, like Vin Nolan, I mean, nice, solid, good people. Gene was winning with 85% of the vote, if not more. That's unheard of. I mean, absolutely unheard of. Joe Ganim down in Bridgeport never got 85% of the vote, and that's a Democrat running in Bridgeport. It's like three Republicans in Bridgeport, and Joe Ganim was getting 75% of the vote in an area that is not at all competitive naturally, versus Gene Enriquez getting 85% of the vote in a city where he should never have gotten more than 67%. So he was a popular man, not based solely on party registration. He was a popular man based on his personality, the force of his personality, and his record at the time. I mean, Danbury looked good, Danbury felt good back then. Danbury made a lot of progress under his 12 years. But when he left, the dominant force, the personality is gone. What happens? The Danbury Democrats plunge into chaos. There's a primary between Chris Sotaro and Tom Arconti. Chris wins, goes on to lose to Mark Boughton by just a hair. Since then, the Danbury Democrats have been a kind of a divided family. There hasn't been the dominant personality, the father figure, if you will, to bring them all together. And that has caused some town committee primaries where, in my opinion, the wrong people won. And I think that's been proven.
But in close races, too.
In very close races, but I think the wrong people have won. That's contributed greatly to the lack of success that the Danbury Democrats have seen on a local level. But if you look at the Republican Party today, Mark Boughton is a dominant personality on a local level. Dave Cappiello is certainly a popular figure and a dominant force, but on a local level, Mark is the father figure. So one day when he does leave or is defeated for re-election, Will the Republicans plunge into that same chaos that the Democrats are in today? Probably, but they'll be far worse off than the Democrats are today because they are a weaker party in general, have less of an organization and a foundational structure
The other
here
thing,
in the
too,
city.
is that anybody has to face, too, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
No,
Paul, but
please.
the other thing somebody has to face, too, in Danbury, too, what a lot of people don't realize, because it usually gets dominated by one side or the other, is almost 1 in every 2 voters in this city is registered unaffiliated.
Yeah,
They're not
that is so
Republican
true.
or Democrat.
Right.
Almost 50% of the electorate is registered unaffiliated. So that's something that any Republican or Democrat has to deal with. I mean, Gene, is that way when Gene was mayor? Is that way with Mark as mayor? Almost 1 in, and that's why Danbury really, come to any kind of politics, local, state, national, is always a swing city. I mean, the proportion of unaffiliateds in the state is about 43% Democrats.
40, 30, 20, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's about 40, 30,
Or
20. I
25,
think
whatever it is, yeah.
you're close to that. You're close to that. Yeah, 40, 30, 25, close to that. But I mean, but Danbury though, 1 in every 2 voters unaffiliated, and that's not something to be squawked at because they need to be courted. You know, if you don't get a sizable chunk of unaffiliateds, you can't win with just Republicans or Democrats in this city. I mean, I think that the aura was there too because Gene had dominated so long, and people forgot about that. I mean, plus also when Gene left, 2 other big names left in the Democratic Party. Mr. De Silva's father, Joe De Silva Sr., the longtime council president, he was gone when Gene left. Matthew Gallagher, the longtime council majority leader, he was gone as well.
He moved out of the city.
Exactly. He moved to Brookfield, where he has not shown, where he has not done anything in Democratic
Well,
politics.
I'm glad he didn't move to Bethel.
But I mean, other people as well too. And I mean, you talk about Helena. I mean, she was a dominant council member, or was an active council member during the Iroquois administration. But so by the time she became city clerk, Mark Bowden was the mayor, and she was gone in 1 term after city clerk. That wasn't because of her record as city clerk. It was because the winds were changing, and the group that had supported her for so long was not there anymore. Telephone call.
Caller, you're in the air. Caller? Caller, you're in the air.
Ivan, you're hanging up on people again. Caller, please call back.
Please go back, yes.
No, but you know, in general, you know, if you want to look at a general, you know, political environment in the city of Danbury, it's fundamentally a competitive city. It should be. You know, when the numbers came in this past election night and people saw that Nancy Johnson was getting, you know, destroyed in Danbury, everyone knew it was over. You know, you can't lose Danbury by that margin and still go on to lose the 5th district or win the 5th district, especially considering you had won it in prior races. You know, to get back to
so
your,
Danbury is more like the New Hampshire.
well, Danbury's
primary.
Danbury.
So if
No,
you
it is a
can
bell.
survive Danbury.
It has started to get the bellwether status. It has, really it has. Usually, I mean, actually, it's more, I guess, I think what Vin Nolan once described as the first ward in Danbury. When they opened that first machine at the high school, they know. They know. That's the bellwether. They know which way the whole race is going.
You know, and again, not to impugn Miss Abrantes, because I've met her before, but I don't know her really at all. She is not what I would call a top-tier or a heavy-hitter candidate in the area, or in the city of Danbury. If you were to sit here with a printout that said Jim Maloney's going to run for mayor, I'd be pretty impressed, and I'd say, well, he would have a shot, you know, to go on and beat Mayor Boughton. He could certainly raise the $150,000. If you were to say Lynn Tabersack, who unfortunately is out here tonight, were to run for mayor, I would say Lynn is very competitive and feisty, and she could raise that kind of money in a heartbeat, and she'd run a heck of a campaign.
Gene Iroquois is going to come back.
If you were to say Gene Iroquois or Jay Tabersack, or maybe even Bob Godfrey, I'd say a competitive race. But you know, the names I've heard, certainly Miss Abrantes now tonight is an official candidate. There was a gentleman named Terry Tierney who had, you know, kind of thrown his hat in the ring for a bit 2 years ago and yanked it right back out. You know, and there could be 20 people that you and I have never heard of, businessmen in the area, retired corporate leaders, who, you know, none of us know, and it is very early. So it may yet turn out to be a competitive race and may yet see a primary in the Democrat Party.
I think that though there is. I mean, Mark Boughton has achieved not the status Gene Iroquois had, but very close to it. In that he is viewed as the leader of this area and everything. He's very much had a presence in Hartford because of his years as a state rep. He's very much brought in the other towns and to what he's doing. And I think there's a general good feeling about the way things are going in the city right now.
But there's two issues that could be very detrimental to his, you know, to his campaign. One is the overdevelopment here in the city, and then the second one is the immigration issue, because people kind of feel that he's going back and forth. He's like he's, when he turns around, he's saying one thing to, to one group, and then he's saying something else, to some, to another group when they come up with, to immigration. And then now we're seeing that the city is really being developed, like all these, condos, going up. Those issues could be very
In terms of the immigration issue, that failed to be an issue in either of his last two re-elections, and it has been an issue that's dominated this area for some time. But it turned out not to be an issue in his last two races, and I have not seen anything that would cause me to think it would be an issue in this race for mayor. That's the first thing. Second thing is the overdevelopment. I mean, we got a caller, but the overdevelopment issue is not indigenous to Danbury. It's going on in Brookfield, it's going on in Bethel, it's going on in the area, even though there's nobody to move into it, and we're getting commercial development. So I think the caller's calling back now.
Yeah, hold on. They will give us a signal. Yeah. So you don't think that's going to be an issue for the city?
The immigration issue will not be an issue in this mayoral campaign. I don't see anything that has changed it from the last two times. Paul, I don't know.
I think it will be. Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. Caller, you in the air.
Yeah, I wanted to call about and find out about talking about the upcoming election with Mayor Boughton and looking at the candidate going against him. I mean, talking before, I was listening to what you guys are saying, and as far as the trickle-down effect on a national level, could you see an incident nationally happening like an immigration issue, okay, where that could possibly trickle down and at the local level? There's been numerous magazine reports with Danbury mentioned. I'd like to just get your feedback and tell me if that could happen.
Thank you.
I don't believe that it can. I think I stated my piece on it.
I think it will be an issue in this race. I think certain people will try to make it an issue in this race. The strength of its residents, I can't gauge. I think Mayor Boughton probably, when he first made immigration an issue, I think he was probably on the side of the majority, at least the majority of voters in the city of Danbury. Smart politics. Got to give him a lot of credit for that.
That is correct. That is correct.
I don't know that his words have produced any results at all. Can you make an argument that his intentions were good and that he spoke those words just to raise the debate and kind of have his voice heard on a statewide or national level just on that one topic? If that was his goal, he accomplished it, and I think he built a reservoir of goodwill amongst a certain voting block in the city of Danbury.
But
I think mostly older white natives of the city of Danbury, I think, were very supportive of that initiative. Has it yielded any results? No. It's been pointless, and it's divided the city in a way that I initially wouldn't have thought possible. But I will give him credit. He didn't just let it drop as an issue. He moved forward and he started this
But do you
group
think it's smart
with
politics
the county executive down Long Island. No.
Do you think it's a smart politics to try to tackle an issue that is not a win issue? Because if Congress is not doing anything about it,
I think it was an appropriate issue in a sense to bring up, because it does affect Danbury and this region as a whole to a greater extent than it does other regions in Connecticut and certainly other regions in New England and the Northeast.
Someone's going to hang up again.
Go ahead and get that.
Caller, you're in the air. Hello, caller?
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
You're talking about immigration. You're using the wrong word. The problem in Danbury are illegal aliens, and anybody who's going to run for mayor has this severe problem to deal with. And Mayor Boughton is doing the best he can with a very bad situation. Is there anybody else that's going to be able to handle it?
All right. Thank you, caller.
Mayor Boughton may be doing the best he can with a bad situation. I don't know what he's doing, so it doesn't really matter much to me. But is illegal aliens a problem in Danbury? Yeah, if you want to say it's a problem, sure. Have they created an environment that maybe is unsafe for living conditions? Sure. But these are people who came to the United States just looking for a better life. And you know what? If you want to cram 20 people in the basement of a house and that's a better life than you had back where you came from, God bless you to a certain extent, because I don't want to live in a basement with 20 other people. Should they have come here legally like my great-great-grandparents did and, Matt's forefathers did? Sure. That's the law, and you want people to abide by the law. But there's a certain reality at play here that they didn't abide by the law. They are here. We're not going to put them on a truck or a train and send them home. That's just not the reality of the situation. Politically, it's just never going to happen. So what do? You know, and that's the crux of the debate. What do you do? What makes it right? You know, oddly, I actually, for once, agree with George Bush and his guest worker program. And Matt obviously doesn't by that snarling I just received, but you know, and I'm in the George Bush, John McCain wing, I guess, when it comes to immigration. To get back though, yeah, immigration will be an issue in this campaign. Will it be the deciding factor? Probably not.
But the thing
because
is that
where it stirs the most passion, it seems, is within the immigrant community, and they don't vote because they can't vote.
Exactly.
So is it a net positive for Mark Boughton? I don't know. Probably. Is it a net neutral? Most likely.
The other thing, too, is Paul mentioned an interesting thing about the age group that cares about this is senior citizens. And let me tell you, and I said this on the show before, the senior citizen population in the greater Danbury area is growing. It's growing at a rate for a lot of reasons. Number one, young people aren't staying in Connecticut. We lost one congressional seat, and we are projected to lose another one by the year 2010. If the trend population keeps dropping down, Connecticut will have a record 3 low.
And because of Jody Israel's new tax increases, the flight will accelerate.
So the young population is going down. The older people are not flying south anymore. They're not moving out. They're staying here because they're getting, the municipalities are passing veterans tax benefits and elderly tax benefits, where they can defer the property taxes until they pass on and their estate, the taxes become due at the time of the estate, and that sort of thing. So, and the seniors always vote.
But guess
they come out every time.
While the adult children neglecting their parents, the senior citizens, is going to be the immigrants who, you know, will continue to take care of them. So who knows how this? It's funny because you know, you hear the senior citizens, you know, some of them, talk back about how it used to be, you know, back in those days, etc. But now we are living in a time where even if the adult children can take care of them, they don't. They don't even come and see their parents. It's the immigrants that are taking care of them, literally the homemakers.
But you hit.
But if you send them home, what's going to happen?
You've hit on part of the problem with the whole immigration or illegal alien debate, is that there's a market for them here.
Exactly.
Because no one in Ridgefield or Reading or Bethel or Brookfield wants to mow their own lawn. No one wants to do. They don't. No one wants to shovel snow.
And no one wants to take care of their parents. Who want to stay home and take care of your parents?
There is a certain level of employment that natives, frankly, don't want to do. Are we a little snotty about it? Sure. But I don't want to do some of that work. I don't want to wash dishes in a
They call laziness. You got to watch TV. Then,
no, it's called standards. No, it's
they call laziness.
But there is a market here, and whether it's in construction or the restaurant industry or any kind of a service industry, there is a market for this immigrant community. Are they paid well? I don't know. You know, they're paid cash. I would assume it's you know, some form of a living wage, a minimum wage of sorts. But there is a market for it here, and for us as the consumers of their services to you know, go out and criticize and demand that they be returned to their native lands, I think is a bit hypocritical. Certainly, it's not all of us. I don't employ an illegal immigrant to my knowledge, but you know, certainly somewhere down the line, I have benefited from their labor in some ways, whether it's been a cost benefit to me personally or not.
Right, and I'm curious to know how the Democrats, you know, are going to tackle this issue.
I didn't read the article fully. Does Ms. Abrantes, does she?
Ms. Abrantes happens to own a Portuguese restaurant in Danbury, too.
Well, she's Portuguese and she got the Portuguese community, but see, my whole thing is I'm curious to know how they're going to deal with this particular issue.
Does she take a stand in?
I actually don't know. I cannot say yes or no. I can tell you. People can call for her, or she can call.
Sure, I hope they do. But I mean, we all know Lynn Taversack's stand on the immigration issue. I don't know if that's a mainstream issue within the Democrat Party in Danbury or not. I suspect that it probably is. And you know, that's something that they will have to convey to the people of Danbury, to the voters of Danbury, and ultimately the people of Danbury will agree with it or they won't. That's the great thing about democracy.